Tiana told everybody I would be broke after the divorce. She said it in our kitchen in Bowie, Maryland, with her phone on speaker so her sister in Baltimore could laugh too. She said I would be sleeping in a studio over a carry-out, driving a busted car, and calling her in 6 months asking for help. Then she walked out with 2 suitcases, my good air fryer, and the kind of smile people wear when they think God personally approved their cruelty. Here's how it happened. Because what she said in that kitchen sounded like confidence, but it was really the first crack in a lie big enough to bury a marriage. My name is Kingsley, and before the divorce I was the kind of man people called steady when they did not know what else to say. I worked facilities management for a hospital in Washington, D.C., paid bills on time, changed the oil before the sticker demanded it, and believed routine was a form of love. Tiana used to say I made a home feel safe. We were black, middle class, church adjacent when it was convenient, and proud of having built something in Prince George's County without help from anybody who intended to remind us later. I thought that meant we were strong. It turned out it only meant I was loyal. We met at a cookout in Fort Washington when we were still young enough to think chemistry could cover character. Tiana wore hoop earrings and a yellow sundress, and she laughed from her chest like she was daring the whole block not to notice her. I was burning chicken because I was too busy staring at her, and my cousin Reggie announced to everybody that if I killed us with dry meat, at least I died in love. She stole a rib off my plate, called my grilling tragic, and sat with me anyway. For a long time I confused being chosen with being understood. That mistake cost me years. The beginning with Tiana was beautiful in a way that still irritates me when I remember it. We took night drives through D.C. with old-school R&B low in the speakers, parked by the water at National Harbor, and split cheap desserts like they were luxury. Once, in a rainstorm outside a diner in Hyattsville, she pulled me under the awning and kissed me so suddenly my glasses fogged up. She laughed at me for a full minute while I pretended I could still see. I loved that laugh. I loved the way she leaned into my shoulder in movie lines. I loved her with the trust of a man who had never been thoroughly betrayed. The first years of marriage looked solid from the outside. We bought a brick colonial in Upper Marlboro, argued about paint colors like it was a constitutional issue, and hosted Thanksgiving with enough food to humble a grocery store. Our kids grew into teenagers and then adults with that strange speed that makes fathers sentimental and silent at the same time. I worked extra hours. Tiana started handling more of the money, and everybody praised us as a couple that had figured it out. That phrase should be banned. Most people saying it are looking at polished wood while termites are already working underneath. The trouble did not arrive with thunder. It came in little changes that asked not to be named. Tiana began dressing for errands like every trip to Target might lead to a photo shoot. She started turning her phone face down, then carrying it everywhere, then sleeping with it under her pillow like national secrets lived inside it. When I asked what had changed, she called me insecure in a tone so calm it made me doubt my own hearing. Meanwhile, I was replacing a water heater, helping our son with an insurance issue, and believing marriage had rough patches. I did not know I was standing on the edge of a sinkhole. The first person to treat me like the problem was not Tiana. It was our daughter, Milan. She came over from Baltimore one Sunday, sat stiff on my couch, and asked why I was making Mom so unhappy. That wording gutted me because it meant Tiana had been narrating our marriage like a courtroom drama where the verdict was already printed. My son Jamal followed a week later with the same careful distance in his voice, like I had become a man you visited out of duty. Both of them were grown, both of them loved their mother, and both of them had been handed a version of me that sounded cold, selfish, and controlling. Then the in-laws joined in, and that was when humiliation stopped being private. Tiana's mother in Baltimore told church friends I was financially abusive, which was impressive considering I had spent 23 years making sure the light stayed on for people who had opinions but no receipts. Her brother posted a vague message online about men who build houses with women's backs and then act surprised when they get left. He did not tag me, which was almost worse. Co-workers at the hospital started giving me that soft, pitying look people reserve for layoffs and funerals. One man asked if I was okay while microwaving fish, and somehow his fish offended me less than his sympathy. The night Tiana finally left, she did not cry, hesitate, or try to preserve a single decent memory. She said she was tired of carrying dead weight. Dead weight. A man with a mortgage history, retirement contributions, blood pressure medicine, and 2 children who called him when their tires went flat was apparently dead weight because his wife had decided cruelty sounded sophisticated. She took framed photos off the hallway wall but left the nails, which felt symbolic in a way I hated immediately. When the door closed, the house sounded too large. I sat at the dining room table eating dry cereal from a mug and realized silence can bully you too. The weeks after were ugly in all the uncinematic ways. I worked all day in D.C., drove back to Upper Marlboro, and entered a half-empty house that looked like grief had started decorating. Tiana had taken enough furniture to make the place echo, but not enough to make it useful, so every room looked mid-argument. She also emptied the pantry of random things out of spite. She took the cinnamon, all the sandwich bags, and every decent towel. I learned a lot about divorce from that theft alone. It is one thing to lose a spouse. It is another to dry your face with a beach towel that says Virginia is for lovers. To survive the evenings, I tried cooking more, mostly because eating fast food while heartbroken feels too on the nose, even for misery. My first attempt at salmon turned my kitchen into a smoke signal for bad decisions. My neighbor Miss Carla knocked on the door, sniffed once, and asked if I was cremating a relative. I laughed so hard I almost cried, which is a dangerous combination for a grown man holding a spatula. She came in anyway, opened windows, seasoned the next batch properly, and told me God may close doors, but apparently he also needed me banned from paprika until further notice. That laugh saved me for an hour. The cruelty kept coming because Tiana had discovered an audience. She told people I begged her to stay. I did not. She told people I had hidden money. I had not. She told our daughter I would probably lose the house because men like your father never plan ahead. That one made it back to me through family in a way gossip always does, stripped of shame and wrapped in delight. Meanwhile, I was borrowing emotional strength from gas station coffee and lunchtime walks. Betrayal is expensive because it charges every part of your life. Sleep goes first. Appetite leaves second. Pride hangs on until somebody repeats your wife's insults in your own voice. The lawyers entered like weather you did not invite. Tiana hired one from downtown D.C. with polished shoes and a face like he billed for blinking. My lawyer, Mr. Holloway in Largo, was older, careful, and built like a retired linebacker who had learned patience by force. He listened more than he talked, which scared me at first because I wanted outrage. Instead, he wanted paperwork. Tax returns, mortgage statements, retirement records, account histories, text messages, insurance forms. Emotion matters to healing, he told me, sliding a legal pad across the desk. But judges marry documents. It was the least romantic sentence I had ever heard, and somehow it steadied me instantly. Tiana, meanwhile, kept performing certainty. At mediation, she arrived in a cream suit and spoke like she was granting mercy to a man beneath her. She wanted the house sold, the proceeds split in her favor, and a narrative in writing that made her sacrifice look noble. She interrupted me twice, rolled her eyes 3 times, and smirked when I mentioned helping our kids through college. At one point, she actually laughed and said, "Kingsley acts like being decent should earn him a trophy." I said nothing because my lawyer squeezed my wrist under the table hard enough to remind me orange really is not my color. Sometimes maturity is just strategic silence in church shoes. After mediation failed, life got meaner. Our son stopped answering my calls for almost a month. Our daughter texted me only to confirm logistics. A couple we had been close with in Clinton quietly chose Tiana's side because she had gotten to them first. That part matters. The first storyteller often sounds like the truth, especially when they cry at the right places and leave out the parts where they sharpen the knife. I started taking long drives at night just to avoid going home too early. I would circle through D.C., cross over into Arlington, then head back, letting city lights pretend companionship while I tried not to imagine being replaced in my own family. The moment I understood something bigger was wrong came through the mail, which is fitting because betrayal often wears a plain envelope. I found a property tax notice mixed in with grocery flyers and hospital newsletters. It was addressed to Tiana's cousin Alonzo in Atlanta, Georgia, but mailed to our home in Upper Marlboro. I almost tossed it in the stack, but Tiana's handwriting was on the back, forward if urgent. My stomach did something cold and exact. We did not have family business in Atlanta. We did not have any reason for tax notices with our address. I took a photo, called Holloway, and heard his voice change for the first time. That single letter cracked open months of darkness. Holloway subpoenaed records, and what came back was uglier than cheating because it had spreadsheets. Tiana had been moving marital funds in small transfers into an account linked to an LLC registered in Georgia, using her cousin as the front name. The money helped purchase a small rental house outside Atlanta while she was still telling people I could not manage finances. She thought the amounts were too minor, too spread out, too boring for anyone to notice. That arrogance almost worked. Fraud likes routine because routine makes people sleepy. But once the trail appeared, it lit up the whole marriage like a blacklight in a cheap motel. When Holloway showed me the documents in his office, I sat there stunned, staring at dates that overlap with anniversaries, birthdays, and one Christmas where Tiana had cried over a necklace and told me nobody had ever loved her so consistently. That memory made me laugh once, sharp and ugly, because apparently she had said it while wiring our money south. Holloway let me have a moment. Then he tapped the page and said, "This is not just concealment. This is planning." I drove home with the window cracked in February air, letting cold hit my face, thinking about how some people do not break your heart in anger. They do it calmly, in installments. The discovery did not soften Tiana. It made her meaner. When confronted in documents, she denied everything, then minimized it, then implied I was too foolish to understand basic asset structures. That was her style. She never apologized, not even accidentally. She claimed the Atlanta house was a family investment unrelated to our marriage, even though marital funds and shared tax years said otherwise. At a hearing, she sat 10 feet from me, chin lifted, acting offended that fact had found her. There is something chilling about a person who cannot feel shame because they are still busy feeling superior. I stopped waiting for remorse then. It was like giving up on snow in July. Around that time, I met Nia at a hardware store in Largo because life sometimes slips kindness into the aisle with light bulbs and extension cords. I was comparing paint rollers like a man raised by wolves, and she asked if I was about to renovate a wall or punish it. I laughed despite myself. She was black, warm-eyed, and buying flower pots with the calm confidence of someone whose home smelled good on purpose. We talked for 10 minutes about primer, bad landlords, and why every man after 40 suddenly develops fierce opinions about lawn equipment. It was harmless. That was what made it precious. Nothing from her asked me to bleed. Nia did not become a miracle. She became a contrast. A few weeks later we ran into each other at a coffee shop in Hyattsville, and she asked how the painting went. I told the truth. Patchy, crooked, spiritually discouraging. She laughed so hard she had to set down her drink. Then she offered to show me how to tape trim properly because, in her words, no grown black man should be out here losing to eggshell white. That afternoon, in my half-empty living room, she taught me how to paint straight lines while old Anita Baker played low from my phone. It was not dramatic. It was tender, easy, and free of performance. Still, most of my life remained pain. Court dates multiplied. Bills stacked. Gossip matured into accepted history among people who should have known me better. My daughter accused me once of trying to punish Mom through the legal system, and I almost admired how fully Tiana had colonized the language around my suffering. I wanted to scream that facts are not punishment, consequences are not revenge, and truth is not abused just because it embarrasses a liar. Instead, I said, "One day you're going to read everything." My voice shook anyway. She looked unconvinced. It is a special sorrow when your children inherit your enemy's version of your face. The hearing that mattered took place in Prince George's County on a gray morning that made everybody look tired before speaking. Tiana arrived dressed for victory. I arrived with a binder, a prayer, and acid climbing my throat. Holloway was surgical. He walked the judge through transfers, dates, signatures, the LLC paperwork, the Atlanta purchase, and the property tax notices. Then he showed how Tiana had answered sworn disclosures as if none of it existed. Her attorney tried to blur, distract, and reframe. But paper is a terrible actor. Under direct questions, Tiana turned evasive, then cold, then openly irritated, which is not a wise tone to take with a judge holding your future. The room changed when the judge asked Tiana why a relative Georgia property tax mail was going to our marital address while marital funds were moving into related accounts. She answered with the same contempt she used at home, like clarity itself was insulting. The judge did not appreciate being treated like one of her cousins at brunch. By the end, the finding was clear. She had attempted to conceal marital assets and had damaged her own credibility across the case. When the judge awarded me the house in Upper Marlborough rather than forcing the outcome she had pushed for, the air left my body so suddenly I had to grip the table. Tiana did not cry. She did not soften. She did not look ashamed. She looked furious that the world had briefly refused to revolve around her. That, more than anything, healed me a little. Not because I needed her destroyed, but because I finally saw her without nostalgia. She had not become cruel under pressure. She had simply run out of reasons to hide it. Outside the courthouse, she brushed past me hard enough to hit my shoulder and muttered that I had won a pity prize. Then she got into her car and drove off like contempt was fuel. That was the last gift she gave me, an ending without false hope. The best part of my comeback happened in silence. I changed the locks myself on a Saturday morning while Frankie Beverly played from a speaker balanced on a windowsill. I repaired cabinet hinges, patched wall scars, and took down the last decorative things Tiana had chosen that made the place feel like a showroom instead of a home. I paid the taxes. I refinanced carefully. I planted tomatoes in the backyard because Miss Carla said growing food was good for anger and cheaper than therapy by the pound. No speeches, no social media captions, no victory dinner. Just a man reclaiming square footage, one practical decision at a time. What surprised me most was not the peace. It was the humor returning. My son finally came by after seeing part of the court record, and the first thing he said when he entered was, "Dad, why does the guest room smell like barbecue chips and Home Depot?" I told him masculinity was a complex fragrance. He laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months, and sat down long enough to read documents I left on the table. My daughter followed weeks later, quieter, eyes red from whatever private shame truth had stirred. Neither apology was elegant, but they were human, which was more than I had gotten from most adults. Nia became part of the new life slowly, which was exactly right. No rescue arc, no dramatic declarations in the rain, no trying to turn honesty into theater. She would come by on Sundays after church, kick off her shoes, and sit with me on the back steps while the evenings softened around the yard. Once, while I grilled properly for the first time in years, she stole a piece of chicken and announced I had finally become safe for the community. I kissed her with smoke in my clothes and laughter still in my throat. Healthy love did not feel like fireworks. It felt like my nervous system unclenching. I heard updates about Tiana through the same channels that once carried her lies. The Atlanta property became a problem when family disputes and financial strain collided, and because everything hidden eventually starts demanding daylight, the arrangement she trusted began costing her more than it protected. I did not celebrate. Real karma rarely needs choreography. It is simply the structure collapsing under the weight of what somebody insisted on building crooked. Meanwhile, the house she predicted I would lose became the place where I rebuilt my credit, my routines, my relationship with my children, and my sense of worth. Private success is powerful because nobody can vote against it. So that is the story of how my wife told everyone I would be broke after the divorce until the court awarded me the house she tried to hide behind lies. The lesson is not that judges always save the good man, or that suffering automatically produces wisdom. Life is not that neat. The lesson is smaller and harder. Document everything. Trust patterns over promises, and never let another person's loud version of you become your own reflection. Some people will betray you without remorse, and some onlookers will enjoy the show. Build anyway. Heal anyway. Because the finest revenge is not public humiliation. It is a quiet life that no liar can touch. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.